Hey guys, we're back with round 2, and this is the Kaelari Saturday Challenge Tournament that was held this past weekend. I lost in the first round of Swiss, so I'm looking to pick things back up here. If it sounds like this is a post-narration, that's because it is. And the reasoning for that is because I had my mic muted the entire time I was playing this round, and I didn't realize it until the round ended. The rest of the rounds won't be like this though, so don't worry. But anyway, my opponent's jimAPear, who is on FJS Midrange. It's been pretty popular since the release of Fall of Argenport. My opening hand's insane, especially since I'm going first, and I get to play teacher on turn 2, and my opponent has to potentially deal with 5 of them, so I keep it. So I play the crest out first. Just to ensure that I can play the turn 2 teacher, which I do. And I believe here Jim has a torch for this, yes. So I play the other teacher here, not before scouting first with the crest. I keep the Fanatic on top since I have 3 Haunting Screams in hand. So I think my plan here is to give one teacher of humility flying in charge and Gorgon Fanatic flying in charge, if I remember correctly. But here I decide to, instead of just playing the Fanatic on curve, I saw that my opponent had 1 power open, so I wanted to ensure that I got the weights on this turn, so I go ahead and Haunting Scream the first teacher out, so that way I can still get it off. And it turns out Jim did have the second torch, so it actually worked out. So I have the weights on. That's pretty big. Granted, this deck doesn't suffer quite as much from the weights from teacher as much as like the control version of this. So he plays Extant Merchant, gets something out of his market. I go ahead and just drop Fanatic here because I'm gonna need some more cards anyway. I think Jim takes a while here. He does keep what he had on top. He actually got the boar out, and it ended up costing him 4. So, but he broke the weights. So here I believe it's going to be Amethyst Waystone, Levitate the Fanatic, and Scream back the other teacher that doesn't have flying in charge. That's exactly what I do. Not really worried about this Extant Merchant right now, so since I'm at 28. But I have a Madness and Equivocate as well. It's a really solid combo in this deck. It's something that I do throughout this entire tournament. I Madness Equivocate quite a few times. But I usually save it for, since Jim's on FJS mid, I want to save that for bigger threats like Tavrod, Rezon. Karya you can't really get. I run Levitate, but that's the only copy I run in the entire deck, so I'm not going to have an easy way to pop Aegis. So, but I can do, like, if I'm close to lethal, I can like pop Aegis with Equivocate, Madness Ikari, and swing in for the win. Stuff like that. But here, I take a really long time on this turn, and I kind of want to explain why. So the obvious play here is to just go ahead and go for the teacher. Just Scream the teacher out, put another Disciplinary Weights on my opponent, and make stuff cost 6, and I almost pulled the trigger here. Again, I wanted to save Madness Equivocate combo for a bigger threat, so I wasn't doing that. I kept thinking though that if I Scream the teacher out, then I don't have a reliable way to draw extra cards outside of teacher, since the Fanatic I have in hand is most likely not getting through if I play it. And I also don't really have a way to pitch it I don't have a way to pitch it to the void at all in my hand, despite having a ton of cards. Because I have a lot of cards, but a good amount of my cards were power too. In the end, I decided to go with Rendra, which I think in hindsight, Screaming the Teacher might have still been the best play, because it's not like I had 0 card draw. Because I got to draw off Teacher, and then I get to draw off Rendra too. And the Nightfall's affecting Jim negatively, and not so much me. Because the Nightfall drawback's basically negated, thanks to Teacher. But there's a lot of things I was thinking there. Playing Fnatic felt really bad since he runs Enforcer and Statuary Maiden, so he could just easily just silence Fnatic. Like, it just gets removed for, and then Fnatic gets no value. I did consider screaming out the Fnatic I already had in the Void as well, but here I attack, and then hoping to blow him out with the Banish I had in hand, and it ended up working out, and I go ahead and just play the Fnatic out. So I've got 8 damage on board. Things are looking pretty good. I think here Jim drops a Karia, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, going back to the Teacher thing, it might have still been better, but I don't know. Like, Screaming Teacher and putting 2 weights on them, it still doesn't mean you win the game, so I've put 2 weights on opponents and they still end up beating me, so like, it's not, I just don't think the card's broken. I think it's super push, but it's not broken. But here's what I was talking about. Jim plays Akaria. I get to pop Aegis with Equivocate, Madness, steal it, and that's lethal. So, end up taking game 1. So I'm in a pretty good spot so far. Okay, so we're in game 2. And this hand, I end up throwing it back because it has a Permafrost, but I have no targets to Haunting Scream back from the Void, and I don't have any time influence for Banish either. Also, I was not running power in my market at this time, so Carrington Merchant couldn't like fetch me power to get me out of Power Screw if I needed it. So I'm not tossing it. I get somewhat unexciting redraw here, but I just have to take what I can get. Call the deck's on top though, so I just leave that on top with the Crest of Mystery. I did Crest of Mystery with the hope that maybe I top deck Teacher, so that way I could seal and make time. That doesn't happen, but I'm still fine keeping Call on top. Here was I had to think about this one for a bit between Haunting Scream and Banish. Because there's 2 Banish in the top 3. So if I bottom them, that means I likely won't see them for the rest of the game. Because I only run 3 Banish in the main. I do have a Banish in the market, so I can fetch that if I draw a Carrington Merchant. But I end up taking the Scream because I already have early interaction with the 2 Equivocates. And to a much lesser extent, the Madness. Despite not having anything to Scream back right now. I just thought Scream was a bit more important. Banish has targets in Jim's deck, the biggest one being Statuary Maiden, but the list the good targets kind of fall off after that. It's basically Stat Maiden, Valkyrie Enforcer, and Ixtun Merchant. That's pretty much it. But here I crest. I go ahead and bottom the Cobalt Waystone because the only card I have that's double primal in the deck is Rendra, and he's not in my hand, so I just wanted to try and find some more action. And here I top deck Crest of Cunning, so I just go ahead and just play that to scout for my 4th power. The thing I was looking here, thinking about what I was going to get out of my market. Yeah, I was trying to decide. Devastating Setback's not very good. It's in this matchup. It's basically a 3-power Sabotage. It'd be between Dark Return. Rendra's Choice is pretty good. Madness I already have. I go ahead and bottom the Scream, since I have one in hand. And I do go ahead and go for the Merchant here. I think I take Banish. That's right. I took the Banish trying to prepare for the turn 4 Statuary Maiden, so I could just remove it immediately. And Jim indeed does play the Maiden, so I get to just kill it. That's the best Banish is going to be in this matchup. So I go ahead and play the Waystone. I need to draw cards anyway. I'm kind of running out of things to do. Don't quite remember what Jim does here, actually. But things are going to get pretty tight later on, but I'm not going to spoil anything. Okay, he Tavrod's here. I remember. Tavrod comes down, and this is one of the big things that I want to Madness Equivocate. This is what you really want to save the combo for. Equivocate's just really nice when you have time. If you're playing a time Haunting Scream deck, because then you get Madness just gets even better. Like, it's arguably as good as Felnscar Scream with the Madness Combust. You have Combust and Devour when it's fire. When it's time, it's Equivocate, Devour. But yeah, I go ahead and Madness. Was hoping to dump a unit into the Void. That didn't happen. I just lost a bunch of draw spells. And unfortunately, my Tavrod transformed into a First Frost Shaman, which I was not happy about at all. I knew I'd get a worse unit, but I didn't expect the First Frost Shaman. That really sucks. So Jim just kind of dirtles this turn. Draws a bunch of cards. I go ahead and play Rindra here. Because I could potentially set up a turn 2 lethal. But this is where things are going to start getting a little dicey over the next several turns. But I think here I'm considering just playing the First Frost Shaman. I think I even considered it last turn, but then I realized, oh, I have a 2-turn clock if I just drop Ranger down. So, but I was considering buffing the health of Carrington Merchant, so that way it could get out of torch range. I think even here I'm just still considering it, but it's going to depend on what Jim plays out here. So he slays the Rindra. I don't think he does much else, though, if I'm not mistaken. That's right, okay. I did draw another Rindra. So the plan here is to... I'm going to Scream this Rindra out, give it Flying in Charge. And here I was thinking about... there's a lot of things I was thinking about. I was thinking about playing the Waystone to get to 5 power, and then dropping First Frost Shaman to buff Carrington, like I said earlier. I decided not to, which worked out, because Carrington actually eats an Annihilate on this attack here. So, kind of dodged that bullet, but this is all to set up lethal via Dark Return on this Rindra, because then he's a 6/6, and the opponent will be at 6 health. Going into their turn. I did actually start considering getting Carrington with Dark Return in case I couldn't get lethal anymore. And here, that's why I was looking at my market. And here I actually even considered not playing Amethyst Waystone. So that way I could stack Nightfall damage for as many turns as possible. So I go ahead and just play the other Rindra. I figured, okay, if he kills this, then I can still Dark Return back the Flying Charge Rindra, and it'll be a 6/6, and I'll win the game that way. Is what I was thinking, but Jim has Rezon and Torch to kill this Rindra, so now I don't have lethal anymore. And this turn, I don't quite think things through all the way. I go for call the deck, but in hindsight, it seemed like a mistake. Because initially I was going to Dark Return the Carrington and get something else out of the market to play immediately, like Ranger's Choice. But since I played Call, I didn't have enough power to do all of that. So I'm sitting here looking at my market. Oh, I'm sitting here looking at the units for Dark Return. And I was having a tough time deciding between the Flying Charge Ranger and the Carrington. I spend quite a bit of time on this. I think I ultimately take Carrington Merchant here. Is what I end up doing, because I figured, well, I'm not gonna have lethal anyway. Like, even if I take Rendra and then plop it down, like I can swing, but Jim can just swing back, and then he might remove the Rendra or something. And then I get no value, and I wish I got Carrington Merchant. So I grab Carrington Merchant here. I believe I go ahead and just pitch First Frost Shaman at this point, because I've realized I'm not going to play this guy. And I actually end up taking Madness since I have Devour in hand. I don't even take Ranger's Choice at all. But it takes me some time to... I do think about it, because Dark Return is a valid choice, and Ranger's Choice is actually valid as well. But Madness, I think, is just a little bit better than both of them, especially since I can't get lethal anymore with him having Rezon out. So I take Madness past the turn. I believe here Jim drops Icaria. It's funny looking back at this. Like I didn't think I played this very well, but I swore I made like mistakes. And I may have, but like the more I look at this game, the more I think that, like, oh, maybe I didn't make mistakes. It just seemed like I just got beat. But Scream's tough to play, so of course, if any Scream players that have experience, if I made any big misplays, then let me know in the comments. But yeah, Icaria gets dropped down here. I just go ahead and decide to Madness Rezon. Not much else I can do. And just swing in. And of course I'm going to Devour Rezon here. But Jim's not going to block, because he doesn't want to just lose his Icaria. Copper Conduit has not been great in this deck. I draw a Nocturnal Observer, which is pretty big, and I'm gonna immediately just bin the Conduit here, because most of the time I've never actually playing the Conduit straight up. I'm always like pitching it to the void and then screaming it out later on. That's what happens most of the time. Although the idea is to play it first and then scream it out later. That's the idea, but in practice it never actually happens. So he swings with Icaria. He top decked the Rezon got the Warcry and he top decked it, so now he has a 10-9 Rezon, which is insane. And my Observer's gone. And I don't top deck anything useful. I think here I take a while on this Dark Return that's on top of my deck. I was really considering whether to keep it on top or put it on the bottom. So I was looking at my Void, and the best targets I have were Rezon and the Rindra with Flying in Charge. And since I'm about to take 15 damage and go to 3, both of those units gain life, so I ultimately decide to keep Dark Return on top so I can draw it next turn. But that was pretty insane. Ripping Rezon off the top there as a 10-9. But yeah, I'm just out of gas at this point. I'm just hoping to stay alive, because Jim really flipped the board on me. But it takes me a while to make this decision. I think here I play, I go ahead and attack because I can't block with this Carrington Merchant anyway. And I'm sure, I think Jim just lets it through. Yep. And I play Fnatic and Rendra here. Because there's no difference between 3 and 2 with this deck. With Jim's deck. Like, it's the same. I died at Torch no matter what. But he had another Karya. Swung for 20. And he got me. So we're tied 1 apiece in the series. So now there's going to be a game 3. And whoever wins this wins the round. Alright guys, we are getting ready to jump into game 3 against jimAPear. We're tied 1 apiece in round 2. So whoever wins this gets the W for the round. This is an easy toss because it's 6 power and a Carrington Merchant. So Permafrost is on top. I decide to go ahead and bottom Permafrost, even though it's a card I can actually like play. The problem is I desperately need power to the point where I'm willing to put Permafrost on the bottom. So here I did top deck Amethyst Waystone, which is pretty good because I get to call here. And the choice here, it's between Crest of Mystery and Equivocate because I already have a Rendra in hand. And here I actually end up taking the Equivocate because I don't have the Primal Influence. I don't have the Shadow Influence to play Rendra anyway because I need double Shadow. And I don't have it, so that's why I end up just taking Equivocate there. Well, in hindsight, actually, I would have had both anyway. Yeah, Crust might have been better there. But I don't know. Equivocate's early interaction. Crest might have still been better. Now that I realize it. Because I had Crest of Wisdom in hand, and I could have took Crest of Mystery. Oh, well. Alright, anyway. So I get Teacher down, and he has the Enforcer for Teacher. So Crest of Mystery, Scout, Dark Returns on top. I go ahead and just bottom it because I have nothing to get back anyway. Like, I'm not going to get back a Silence Teacher of Humility. That's just silly. And it'll take me a while to deploy Rendra and get Rendra to the Void. And ideally Haunting Scream him back so he gets Flying in Charge before I even think about Dark Returning him, because that's the ideal situation. So he Ixta Merchants, gets something on the market. I swing with the 3/3 and just go ahead and play Rendra, so I can have some type of blocker for the Ixta Merchant. Not really too worried about this Enforcer yet. I think Jim here drops Statuary Maiden, if I'm not mistaken. Which I still don't want to, even if I draw Undepleted Power here, I don't want to Madness Devour that. That's just not a good enough target. We just Equivocate it, I feel like. And I don't draw the power anyway to even make that happen. Here I had to replay because I wasn't sure if he actually kept the card he scouted for on top. So I think I was thinking like either that card is like a Tavrod, or he has power in hand and that card's like a Rezon or something like that. But I keep Carrington Merchant on top. And I believe that's because I want to be able to Carrington Merchant for an answer for one of his big threats, since Jim's getting to that point in his curve where he'd be playing those threats. So here I just ace base and just let him deal with the blocking. This is truly like a Mathis for blockers moment. But ideally, I want Jim to single block Rendra with Statuary Maiden. I don't actually want the double block with the 3/3s. But Jim takes a while here, because Jim's not sure how he wants this to play out. Like, even a triple block is fine by me. That's like the second best scenario for me. But the worst case actually ends up happening. Jim makes the right blocks here. He just double blocks the Rendra and then single blocks Maiden. So I go ahead and bounce the Maiden, and then here I was trying to decide whether or not to use the second Equivocate. I decided to actually use it, since not only did I have Devour to combo with Madness, but it put Jim so far behind on tempo that it would take too long to play those random units in hand again. So I likely wouldn't see them again. So I thought it was just a big tempo swing if I just went ahead and just bounced the entire board, and then I still had two things. Because if I'm not mistaken, the FJS mid deck did not have a board clear of any kind. Pretty sure it didn't. And yeah, it didn't. There was no board clear of any kind. So, Valkyrie Enforcer comes down, silences the the Rendra. And I'm looking at my market here, trying to decide what I want to take. Dark Return and Madness seem not needed as much. I didn't want to take nothing though, because I think this is just kind of my plan. I've been Dark Return, which means I think I take Rendra's Choice here. Yeah, I do take Rendra's Choice. Since the threats that are gonna come down are all multi-faction units, and Madness feels less good now that especially since I don't have another way to take advantage of Madness here. Like, I don't have another Equivocate or another Devour to combo with the Madness in my market. He ended up getting a Crunch, which is actually pretty good for him. I was actually kind of scared of this Crunch. I was very concerned. He had another Extra Merchant in hand. I don't want to use Rendra's Choice on the Crunch. That's absolutely not going to happen. I'm definitely keeping this. I'm pretty sure I'm keeping Haunting Scream on top. Yeah, I end up keeping it on top. I just A-space here, I believe. Actually, no. I leave the 5/5 back because I'm concerned that Jim will not block with Crunch. But he does block with Crunch, which was very surprising for me. That's exactly what I wanted. I did not think Jim was going to do that. That's why I left the 5/5 back. It's like, nah, he's too smart to do that. But yeah, that was big for me. So I just play the second Rendra and just represent lethal here. Karia does come down. The nice thing about Rendra's Choice here is that I actually have lethal here, I believe. Yeah, I do, but I don't know if I actually see it. No, I think I do end up seeing it here because I take a little while on this turn. Okay, maybe not. I could have went Rendra's Choice, steal it, swing. Yeah, I had lethal there, so I missed lethal. That sucks. Like, as good as that play I just did look, that it wasn't lethal, so. And here this is actually really cool what happens here. So I missed lethal, but I did find this line, which was kind of insane. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up Haunting Screaming the Carrington Merchant, and that will do his summon effect. and then I believe I Madness the yeah, I take Madness from the Void. Yeah, this was pretty sick. Even though I did still like totally miss lethal the turn before. But this was arguably an even sicker play. It just took me a while to actually see it. Just so you guys know, before this tournament, I played exactly 15 games with this deck. So I have like very little experience just playing Scream in general. I hadn't really played a Scream deck before that either. So I'm very new to Haunting Scream. But yeah, that was round 2 in the books. We took it 2-1. We're 1-1 in the Swiss. And like I said, this is the end of the post narrations. Everything else is just going to be live narrated. So I'll catch you guys for round 3. Be sure to check that out.